Hi, everybody. How are you this fine evening? I think this is the first 3MT we've had in the fall that it wasn't snowflakes outside. So I think we can say it's a fall evening, not a winter evening yet. Maybe it'll change by the time we are done. This is a long event. We never know. If you will look to this side of our Black Box Theater, you'll see our enormous amount of students that we have that are preparing anxiously for their 3-minute speech. We asked how they were feeling, and there was a resounding nervous, but self-identified. I am Tracy Collum. I am the interim dean for the graduate school, and I am here to welcome you to our 8th annual 3-minute thesis competition. We start a little early some years because we have so many students to present, and this year we have 33 students for you. And that also means that we have people trickling in throughout the first half hour or so. So if you do see folks coming in looking for seats, please try to help guide them so they don't interrupt our presenters as well. I do want to start first with a land acknowledgement. The land on which Idaho State University's Pocatello campus sits is within the original Fort Hall Reservation boundaries and is the traditional and ancestral home of the Shoshone and Bannock peoples. We acknowledge the Fort Hall Shoshone and Bannock peoples, their elders past and present, their future generations, and all Indigenous peoples, including those upon whose land the university is located. We offer gratitude for the land itself and the original caretakers of it. Many of you who are here in person grabbed a program out in front. We have a few adjustments to make because we had some snafus. There's nothing quite like planning for months and months, in their case, years, on research and work, and then to have a small glitch throughout the day of the event. So in your program, if you grabbed one in person, we have an update, an insert later in the program. It's a People's Choice Award. We're going to talk more about that in a little bit, but there's an updated QR code in the program. There's also an updated link on the website for our YouTube viewers who are looking for that link to open later on after the event. So we'll talk about that a little bit more, but just know you have the program, but there are a little bit of updates in there because the system that we originally used went down today. Nothing to do with ISU. I will say ISU was working their magic and our vendor could not come through. So pay attention for that information as we move forward. On our slides also, we have some information about the competition in general, as well as the judging criteria. I'm going to skip through those so that way we get to our presenters faster. However, if you are interested in those competition rules and the judging criteria, they are on our 3-minute thesis graduate school website. So at this time, I would love for everyone in the room to take your electronic devices and silence them. They can be very disturbing, whether they vibrate, ring, or have an alarm, or ring out Taylor Swift. To our presenters who only have 3 minutes, 3 very critical, important minutes, and something could distract them and throw them completely off. Do you all want to be thrown off? There's a lot of no's there. So if you will silence your electronic devices, we would greatly appreciate that. In addition, if at any time you feel that you do need to step out, or if you have young children or you do need to make a phone call, we do have a lounge area right outside our doors in which the presentations will be viewable through the TV streaming in there as well. So feel free to take advantage of our quiet lounge space. So up first, it won't be our presenters yet. It's okay. They're all getting really nervous. I'm going to introduce first our interim provost and vice president of academic affairs, Dr. Adam Bradford. Dr. Bradford is no stranger to our 3-minute thesis. As the very first week of his tenure at ISU as the graduate dean, I said, we're going to Boise, be ready to be home late because we have to take our winners to Boise to compete at the state 3-minute thesis. So that was his indoctrination to ISU, working our 3-minute thesis angle as our students participating in our state competitions. So I invite Adam Bradford up to talk with you and welcome you to our event today.
Thank you, Dr. Collum. I appreciate that very much, and it is wonderful, very wonderful to be with you all tonight. I have to tell you, if you look up there, there's a little timer going off right now because the staff threatened me and said, you only have 3 minutes too. So I'm gonna do my best. I'm especially long-winded, but I'm gonna do my best to hold to that 3 minutes. As Dr. Collum mentioned, I'm the interim provost and vice president of academic affairs. I came to ISU 5 years ago to be the dean of the graduate school. And as she mentioned, my first real substantive interaction with a lot of our graduate students was through the 3MT competition. I love this competition because for me it encapsulates exactly what a university is supposed to exist to do. Universities are a place of transformation. Students come to us all the time for a lot of different reasons. Frequently, when they come to us, it's a relatively transactional kind of idea. They're coming to us and they're thinking, boy, I'm going to take some classes, I'm going to persist over the course of several years, and eventually they're going to give me a piece of paper that's going to let me go out and make some money. And that's the thinking that a lot of students come to us with. But if we do our job right, and if we give our students what it is that we have truly to offer, then we open up for them a space of transformation. We open up for them a space in which they are able to take the latent potential inside of them to think critically and analytically and clinically and creatively, and to use those abilities to reflect on different aspects of this human experience that we're all sharing in ways that are meaningful and profound, and push just a little bit further the bounds of our knowledge or our understanding of who we are, the phenomenon that impact us as human beings over the course of a lived life. And they contribute through that transformation, that personal transformation, that growth that they go through. They contribute something greater to all of us. I think the 3 Minute Thesis competition is a place where you, as students, graduate students who are truly milking this experience for all it's worth, are able to come forward and share with us the transformational contributions that you can make to our world and to our society. Don't ever discount them. In some ways, you may think they're small, but true change and true growth happens as we put together many small changes over time. Your contributions are meaningful and valuable, and what you're doing here tonight is sharing those with us. I'm always inspired by this particular experience and by the 3MT thesis competition. It inspires me, it makes me think of how beautiful a place this world can be by virtue of the efforts of folks like yourself, and we're looking forward to that. And I'm out of time, so there you go. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to all of you. Glad that you're here.
We often joke with Dr. Bradford that he couldn't make that 3 minutes. He was very close. For you audience members here, our clock is behind you or up on the wall. Our students will be able to see it when they are here on stage. And so that's how Dr. Bradford was timed in our internal jokes of making sure he didn't take up the whole 3 hours. Thank you for that. So let's get to it. The ones you're really here to see, our graduate Bingles. So up first, we have Shirif, MD, Yousuf, Bhuiyan, who is a doctoral student in engineering and applied science.
Hello. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this event. Thank you. Imagine a world where energy is clean. You see here, energy is clean, available, and there is no environment impact. Is it possible in this world right now? We see the climate change in this world that impact our environment so drastically that the low seaworld countries are raising the water level and impact the world very much. So we come to find a solution. What is the solution? To find a source of energy that don't impact our life. At the same time, it will energize our industries, energize our transportations, and also in all means without hampering the climate. Now, how we go through this? So that simple element, hydrogen, that we can solve this problem. So we make hydrogen through a process that is we call electrolysis. What is electrolysis? Electrolysis is a simple high temperature. We pass through the water and it divides two molecules, hydrogen and oxygen. That oxygen fuels our lives, our industries, and our transportations. So this electrolyzer, what we are doing, we have developed a system that is efficiently, energy efficiently produce hydrogen, and that hydrogen uses for transportation and also for industries as well. Now, beside this, we also developed some other process that is energy efficiency development, but there is some challenges because this is high temperature electrolysis, where high temperature degraded the materials and also it also degraded the process and also reduced the energy efficiency. So we are working right now how to develop this energy efficiency, also at the same time to maintain its scalability, so that we can move this technology from here to in industry level. So this is the way we are working, so that in the future we are hoping the future without hampering the environment, we are finding a solution of energy. That energy reduce the environment impact, zero level, and also we make it sustainable for the long of our generations, so that it comes to our life for sustainable development. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for listening to my presentation.
So tonight's 3-minute thesis event is also a celebration. 70 years ago, in 1954, Idaho State University, then called Idaho State College, launched its first graduate programs. 57 students, not even double the amount we have in our 3MT tonight. 57 students were admitted to begin in the summer of 1955, and the first graduating class was made up of 7 students who graduated in 1957. Little trivia for you. Up next, we have Antora Dev, who is a doctoral student in engineering and applied science.
Now, let's think about a world where the fuel is coming from plants, not from ground or ocean with huge pipelines, where the energy is clean, sustainable, without depleting our fossil fuels or harming our planet. Corn stalk, a commonly found agricultural byproduct, is the prime candidate for this vision. However, to fully harness its potential, we need a deep understanding of their internal structure, mostly the vascular bundle. By the way, what are those? Vascular bundle are tiny channels within their stem that is used to transport water and nutrients, and those are key point for their strength and fuel value. This is where my research comes in. I'm analyzing advanced 3D imaging technique, what we are calling micro-CT images of their stem. But there is a twist. These images are so complex to identify those vascular bundles. Therefore, I have taken a different route. Using powerful machine learning technique, what we are calling UNet model, and along with other image processing technique, I have developed a way so that we can identify the vascular bundles from those complex structures. Not only this, our developed model can identify their sizes and as well as quantify their numbers from these complex structures, which is vital element for biofuel production. And the results those are stunning. Our model achieved around 98% accuracy, which reveals the best approach for biofuel productions. And with each of these results, we are gathering lots of insights that will help us for better agricultural and sustainable energy field. And not only this, the same technique can be applied for the other plants so that we can develop a library of knowledges on biomass structures. My work moves us one step closer to the future where the energy would be clean, sustainable, and limitless, where the future would be look like our plants will powers our world and our nature leads to a way to a sustainable energy for the futures to come to us.
So as we celebrate our 70th birthday this year, many times between the students presenting, you're going to hear from me with some fun facts, sometimes maybe boring facts, I don't know, numbers, data, if that's your thing, mostly because we need to give the judges time to score. So I just get to drone on a little bit. So hopefully you'll learn some other things today too. And then I get my notifications that we're ready to go to the next person, and I cut my data short and then we share it at the next round. So next we do have a Zoom presenter. We have several students on Zoom tonight with us and want to make sure that he is up and ready. So our next person presenting on Zoom is Jacob McMillin, who is a doctoral student in nursing practice. Jacob? Oh, we have a little bit of audio there, Jacob. Hang on one second. Does it look like his is on? Give us a second. Sometimes we have technology we have to manage. Sorry, Jacob. Try now. Jacob, can you hear me? Oh, we cannot hear you. Hold on just a second again. We'll get you started. And you know, we do run rehearsals 2 days before our event to test all these pieces, but you never know what can happen in 48 hours. Think we're ready, Bill? Still looking. Okay. Still hold on, Jacob.
Okay.
Oh, I heard you. We all heard you.
Can you hear me now?
The
Cool.
whole audience is now in disbelief. We heard you. Are we ready to roll upstairs then? Think we're good?
Good.
All right. Jacob, let's start that over again, okay?
Okay, here we go.
All right. The mic is yours.
It's like the old expression goes, only two things in life are guaranteed. One day, that life will end in taxes. But currently, more people are prepared to discuss their taxes than they are to discuss their medical preferences, who they want in charge of their medical decisions, and what they would want done for them in their end-of-life care. This process is called advanced care planning, and it involves having discussions and documenting your preference for future medical care if you're unable to communicate them. This includes discussions with your families and your healthcare provider. The main document for advanced care planning is called the Advanced Directive. On this form, you're able to express your medical wishes, the assigned person that you would want to make medical decisions for you if you're unable to make those decisions. Currently, 2/3 of Americans do not have any documentation, and when Medicare recipients were surveyed, 90% of them said that they would prefer to have limited medical treatment or comfort measures towards the end of their life. This lack of documentation leads to many burdens for both the patients and their families. Increased healthcare costs, increased emotional stress, and sadly, the patient ends up receiving aggressive medical treatment that they may have not even wanted. As a nurse, I have seen this scenario play out many times, and the times that the family and the patient were prepared, it made a dramatic difference in everyone's experience. There was less distress, greater understanding, and most importantly, the patient was more comfortable, at ease, and was able to have the dignity that they deserved. It was because of this of why I wanted to address this issue with my project. The question was, why are people not seeking out advanced care planning? How can I increase people's readiness to address this topic? And how can I do it at a level where I can have an impact? The main reasons that advanced care planning is not completed is number one, lack of awareness, followed by the lack of resources, and lastly, misconceptions about advanced care planning. With my project, I sought out to address these issues. I decided to do a community movie screening within my community of Bountiful, Utah. To gather data at the event, a pre and post survey model was utilized where participants completed a short survey before and after the event. A couple of the example questions from the survey would be, how confident are you that today you could ask somebody to be your medical decision maker? And how ready are you to talk with your doctor about the kind of medical care you would want if you were very sick or near the end of life? For this event, I chose to use the movie Tuesdays with Morrie, which is a great film that focuses strongly on end-of-life wishes. After which, a presentation to educate people on advanced care planning is completed, educating people on the resources available to them, how to have this discussion and provide some guidance on how to address it with people. And hopefully by having this event, it gave participants the knowledge and the confidence they needed to have these hard discussions. Thank you.
Jacob, thank you. And we'd like to wish Jacob and his classmates a happy National Nurses Practitioner Week. This week celebrates over 50 years of nurse practitioners and their incredible contributions to healthcare. The Nursing Practice Doctoral Program launched at ISU in 2013, and as the fourth highest enrollment in graduate programs at ISU, we recognize almost 97 students in the DNP program this year. Next year, we will begin another nursing doctoral program. It's the Idaho's first CRNA program with a doctor in nurse anesthesia practice. Up next, we have Adam Brown. Adam is a master's student in microbiology.
Bacteria, they're small microbes. We associate them with a bunch of, terms like processes like fermentation, clinically like infections, or just the crazy diverse they have, how some are being used to degrade plastic all over the world. But one term most people probably wouldn't think of would be a bomb. So we're gonna talk about Staphylococcus aureus. It's a gram-positive bacteria that lives in our skin, and it can actually cause debilitating disease, especially with these antibiotic-resistant ones like methicillin-resistant Staph aureus, or MRSA. Probably heard about that. And not even like the best medical care in the world can take care of it. It happens to hospitals. People still die all over the world, even if you can't afford this great, medical care in the US. So how would you defeat it? By blowing it up from the inside. So we're gonna have to talk about phages. So bacteriophage or phages are just viruses that infect bacteria. So they're not gonna infect, your kidney cells, for example. They're not gonna infect your kidney cells. So 80 alpha is the phage we're gonna be talking about. It finds a staph cell and injects its DNA, and the DNA will incorporate inside the chromosome of the bacteria. So every time the bacteria divides, so does the phage. And then when the time is right, the phage can pop out of the cell, replicate, create more viruses, and then lyse the cell open. And then we also have to cover pathogenicity islands. Staph aureus pathogenicity islands, also called SAPIs. Think of them as lesser viruses. They have their own genome, but they don't have structural genes, so they can't make the cool viruses, the capsids. They have to steal it from a helper phage. In this case, that'd be 80 alpha. And many staph cells that have been sequenced have not just one, but multiple phages and SAPIs in them. And how is this even a bomb? It's because RNA is a protein from 80 alpha, and it binds to a promoter, this DNA of interest. When I say promoter, think of like a landing strip for an airplane. So RNA polymerase can bind and create the instructions for these necessary proteins. And in this case, this would be all the cool structural ones, like the lunar lander type ones you can see right there. And it also has other genes, like the ones that are necessary to blow open the cell. So RNA basically initiates the escape protocol, you could say, for viruses, which ultimately kills the cell. But if you don't have RNA, you can't make the messages for the proteins. RNA polymerase can't land. But the other thing is that PTIA from SAPI1 is able to bypass the traditional promoter and bind to the 80 alpha DNA. And this ultimately creates those messages again to make those proteins to lyse the cell. And because this is unique, because it's never been described before, and also it could be used when understood to have something that could mimic the effects to blow up MRSA infections and cure this problematic thing that's resistant to normal antibiotics.
So a little trivia on our microbiology program. The Master's in Microbiology has been around at ISU since 1964, with the PhD beginning shortly thereafter in 1968. Our combined microbiology and biology degrees at both the master's and doctoral levels host 40 students working with the biology department with well-known faculty who are often winning internal ISU awards such as Distinguished and Outstanding Teacher and Researcher, as well as students who receive Outstanding Student Achievement Awards, as well as regularly scoring in the top 3 of our 3-minute thesis competition and research symposiums. So watch out for those biology students. Up next, we have Rimi Das, who is a master's student in electrical and computer engineering.
Hello. Imagine you are sending a message to someone far away. Instead of shouting in all directions, hoping they hear you, you can use a flashlight beam, pointing it exactly where you want to send the message. That's essentially what my research is about. A highly focused communication using antennas. My research involves a highly directional antennas operating at ultra-high frequency bandwidths. What do you think? Why it is important for us? Well, in today's world, securely sending information over a long distance is always a huge challenge, especially in the military applications, radar, and satellite communications. We need to send our message in our target without spiraling into other directions. To achieve this, I combine 2 powerful antenna technologies together. One is a spiral antenna, and the second one is a reflectory array antenna. Well, there are lots of antenna technologies. Why I choose these 2 only? I have my own reason. A spiral antenna captures a wide range of signals, where a reflectory antenna focuses those signals like a mirror. Together, they create a very precise one-way communication path to enhance the signal clarity and the control. So I have rigorously testing and simulating my antenna to make it more precise and secure, and to do the make it more clear, and to send my information in the point exactly. So I am using some antenna software to make my challenge, complete my simulation work. Well, this I'm hoping that I already have the very precise simulation results, so I can make this my target very focused, and I can make this. We can use this antenna technology in our military system and satellite and radar applications. Not only this, we can use it in our everyday data also for protecting the data security and reducing the interference. So this is my work. Thank you.
We're going to change topics a little bit here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the McNair Scholars Program, which is a federally funded TRIO program funded at 151 institutions across the U.S. and Puerto Rico by the U.S. Department of Education, including here at ISU. It is designed to prepare undergraduate students for doctoral studies through involvement in research and other scholarly activities. The goal of the McNair Scholars Program is to increase graduate degree awards for students from underrepresented segments of society. And tonight we have several of those special guests with us who are enrolled in our McNair Scholars Program here at ISU, along with their ISU McNair Director, Dr. James Pascali. If you would like, welcome to our McNair Scholars. And then up next, we have Miles Rhoads. Miles is a master's student in anthropology.
I am Southern Pomo. I am Two-Spirit. I know the weight of a story untold. In Idaho, Native persons disappear twice the national average, but that's just the beginning of the story. Those are the names we know. Imagine those we don't. Every year, nearly 600,000 people go missing in the United States. Most get headlines, but for many Native people, there is no media frenzy. There's no breaking news. Their stories are lost, forgotten by a system that has neglected them for too long. As a Native researcher, I carry their stories with me. They are my own. I refuse to let them be forgotten. My research is creating something new, a one-of-a-kind, first-of-a-kind database that focuses on the I-15 corridor here in Idaho, where Native communities are disproportionately impacted. It goes beyond recording names. It captures critical cultural details that traditional systems miss, like gender diversity, tribal affiliation, and practices such as travel routes and gathering places. This database using predictive analysis, law enforcement can focus on factors that increase vulnerability. This database goes beyond recording names.
Our students are doing such incredible work. The master's in anthropology, as we began it, we started that program in 1993. So it has been around for a couple of decades. And in that time, we've also added forensic science as a certificate. And the forensic science certificate recognizes and demonstrates how all the forensic sciences can work together to solve crimes, analyze crime scenes, and inform the public. Up next, we have Costain Nachuma, who is a doctoral student in engineering and applied sciences.
Is artificial intelligence here to replace us, our jobs, our thought processes, our decisions, perhaps even our own relevance? I have something to tell you. AI is not here to replace us, but to empower us. Think of it in this way. The type of AI I'm talking about is a conversational AI, capable of taking text, audio, video, process that information and give you some outputs you may want. Sounds familiar? Something like ChatGPT. Well, this kind of AI is being integrated in key sectors which I am studying: health, education, and finance. In health, it's being used to help with diagnosis, processing vast amounts of data in no time. In education, a personalized tutor. In finance, fraud detection. Well, in as much as this AI is doing so much for us, a challenge comes up, and that is the challenge of privacy and security. Your concern, my concern. Well, my study finds out that some of the challenges as this AI is being integrated is some people choose not to use the AI altogether. You lose out on the efficiencies and the benefits of AI, like a personalized tutor. But then when you choose to use the AI, what if you get a wrong diagnosis? These systems are not yet perfect. So then, some other challenges include data breaches. Imagine the AI has some of your information and is exposed. You don't want that. Another major challenge I think about is what I call garbage in, garbage out. Some of these systems may be fed garbage, and they'll give you garbage. So then, some of the mitigation strategies that my research finds are we need proper ethical oversight over these systems. Something is being done, but I feel like it's not enough. We can do more. And so, some of the other strategies, we can train these systems in a way that we don't share private information, but they're able to do the job. It's a special kind of training. The term is very technical, I won't say it here. So then, another strategy to help us overcome some of the challenges in this domain is sensitization, like I'm doing now. When you use this ChatGPT and other kinds of AI, don't put in your personal data, because when a breach occurs, everything is exposed. Be aware. So then, my research is to legislatures. My research is to you as the users. My research is to the developers of AI. To be careful. This is the vision I envision. This is the future I envision. A future where AI does not harm us, but help us. A place where innovation and trust can coexist.
All right. We have the most students presenting tonight from our doctoral program in engineering and applied science. We have 6 concentrations in that program now, and those students are really attempting to get their research out, and so we're hearing from quite a few of them today. Up next, we have Rifat Ara Tasnim, who is a doctoral student in engineering and applied science as well.
Do you know what is the main reason behind mental disorders? It's negative thoughts. It's like this type of thoughts are like, I can't do anything, or things are too hard for me, I can never do that. This type of negative thinking pattern can create a very critical anxiety and depression. to provide a perfect treatment to resolve this disorder, the first step is to identify what type of negative thoughts the patients are having. The traditional way is to using a questionnaire in which the patients are told to imagine a scenario, scenario where you are facing this problem and that problem, and they have to think, okay, so how do I feel when I'm in that situation? They are not experiencing that in firsthand, right? So what will happen if a patient actually does not fully understand the whole scenario? It can lead to inaccurate identification of negative thoughts. Okay, so that's the problem when the treatment comes. What if I tell you there is a way where the patients can actually experience similar type of scenario, but in a safe, controlled environment, but not in real world, inside a video game? For my PhD research, I have designed and developed a serious game to identify players' negative thoughts through their gameplay. These type of games are called serious games because the main purpose is beyond entertainment. So for this game, I have studied the core elements of video games, and then I have designed some challenges for this game that I have developed. And those challenges, they're pretty simple. They're pretty straightforward, like doing some task or completing, finding something. But I designed those challenges in such a way so that it can bring out the players' different types of negative thoughts when they play the game. I put some questions inside the video game, and which are completely related to those challenges. After a player play the game, they respond to those questions based on how they feel. In that way, they can actually experience the whole thing. They don't have to imagine anything and then respond in that way, so that we can actually identify the negative thoughts. So I ran multiple experiments on over 250 participants with this game, and I found more than 80% accuracy in identifying their negative thoughts through their game. So thank you.
Our most represented college today, because we have all those doctoral students in engineering and applied science, is College of Science and Engineering. The vast research that they're doing within the College of Science and Engineering ranges from many things you'll hear in relation to phishing and scamming related to your emails, and then optimizing vehicles in certain environments. Lots of different research that you'll hear from Cozy today. Up next, we have Sara Sourani, who is a master's student in mechanical engineering.
Nowadays, we have autonomous vehicles everywhere, specifically in the agricultural fields. But day by day, we are integrating more components and more sensors to the vehicles, which make them heavy. But we don't like that. So, for my study, I designed and optimized a chassis for this autonomous vehicle. And as you know, Idaho is the leading state in the agricultural field, and we want to keep it in that way. For this design, I used the cutting-edge technology. I used finite element method for the calculation part. I used genetic algorithm for the coding parts, and I used stress analysis in the SolidWorks to design, model, and simulate the actual design before making and building the physical product. So in that case, we can save lots of weight, lots of time, and lots of cost. So for the next step, I worked on the material selections because it will affect it to have a lightweight and cost-efficient vehicles. So I found carbon fiber is the best materials for using in this case. But we have to, if you want to use carbon fiber, we have to print it. So I used 3D printing technologies to print the chassis. So for this project, I received grants and fundings, and I submitted the results in one of the most prestigious conference, which is ASME. And I'm gonna show and present it next week about this project. And I'm hopeful to bring more funding to the state. And my hope is to help Idaho to become a national leader in the agricultural field. And I want to help farmers to work more efficiently. And I can say my name is Sara Sourani, and I'm from the mechanical department. And thank you for your attention to this case.
If some of the research you've heard doesn't make you want to go back to school to be a mechanical engineer, perhaps the median salary might entice you. The median salary for a student going after they graduate with their Master of Science in Mechanical Engineering or Measurement Control Engineering is $78,000, and the median salary for a doctoral degree in those same areas is $95,000. So if you are thinking about heading back to school, that might be an area you look into after you hear these presentations. Up next, we have our doctoral student in educational leadership, Yvette Cadeaux.
Welcome. On March 11th, 2020, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a worldwide pandemic. Just before this declaration, the World Health Organization issued guidance for schools and universities that offered mitigation strategies such as hand washing and remote instruction. In response, U.S. schools, for the most part, closed to in-person instruction and transitioned to remote instruction. According to the National Teacher and Principal Survey, up to 80% of U.S. schools were offering remote instruction. Actually, close to 80% of U.S. schools were offering remote instruction in spring 2020. Numerous studies since 2020 have looked at teacher attitudes towards this period of remote instruction. Teachers have cited issues with technology, lack of student engagement, and a general feeling of being ill-prepared to teach remotely. My study will look at this period of remote instruction from a different perspective. My study population will be adults who experienced remote instruction while they were in middle school and/or high school. I will be looking at correlations between their perceptions, retrospectively, of their remote instruction experience and their decision to attend online college courses or enroll in an online degree program. I will also be looking at the predictive value of variables such as how well teachers integrated technology into assignments during remote instruction, and teacher involvement. Since the pandemic, there has been an expansion of online college courses and online degree programs. Some experts believe that students who experienced remote instruction while in K-12 are better prepared to succeed in online college courses. I am a retired K-12 teacher, and I experienced the pandemic. It was a stressful period of my life. Because of this, I am looking forward to the results of this study, which will provide valuable insights to K-12 teachers and administrators, instructional designers, and to administrators in higher education, including here at ISU. Thank you.
So if you remember when I told you Idaho State University's graduate school first opened its doors, the original programs that we began with were in education. So the first 3 programs that we developed were the Master of Arts in Education, Master of Science in Education, and a Master of Education. So as Idaho State College evolved from the teaching degrees and into more where we have already discussed biology started, we originally began as a teaching college, and that's where the graduate school began as well. Up next, we have Wesley Peterson, who is a master's student in the Clinical Mental Health Counseling Program.
Okay, I want to invite you to breathe with me. Just breathe in, breathe out. Now imagine that you are in this space with the fire in the forest. What feelings are coming up for you? Maybe fear, but at the same time, wonder, awe, maybe despair, but yet hope, destruction, rebirth, the cold of the water, the heat of the fire. Accepting opposites of thought and feelings is one tool in our Yoga Nidra chest of tools. Yoga Nidra, a meditative practice, has been utilized as a trauma intervention for veterans, military veterans with PTSD. Now, another population that suffers trauma at a disproportionate rate is incarcerated women. More than 50% of incarcerated women are survivors of physical and or sexual abuse. In 2019, more women made a greater portion of the incarcerated population than ever in the history of the United States. And Idaho incarcerates women at a higher rate than any other state in the United States, nearly 3 times the national average. Now, utilizing Yoga Nidra has been my project, an 8-week program in which I have designed utilizing tenets of Yoga Nidra, group therapy, and trauma-informed counseling, with the hope that we will reduce recidivism rates, which is the rate at which women come back to prison after being released. And with this growing body of research that supports treating trauma reduces our recidivism rates. And so in an effort to make a step forward in rehabilitation in our prison systems, this is our goal. A Zen master student was once asked, Zen master, where do you go when you die? The Zen master says, I'm going straight to hell. To which the student asks, why? Because that is where I am most needed. Thank you.
So the Clinical Mental Health Counseling Program began in 1994. The counseling program has expanded over the years with the doctoral program, as well as 5 additional master's programs in the counseling area. They've also added a certificate in animal-assisted therapy. And that is for people who have a passion for animals and an understanding of the importance of the relationships between people and animals, and work on certificate in animal-assisted interventions. Up next, we have Tanzim Mostafa, who is a master's student in computer science.
I'd like everyone to take a look at your smartphones for a moment. What if I told you that this small device depends on materials that are mined under dangerous, often unethical conditions half a world away? These materials, like cobalt, lithium, and some rare metals, are the essential building blocks of our modern world. They power our smartphones, drive our electric cars, and even make clean energy possible. But here's the problem. These materials are becoming harder to find, and the methods we use to explore them are expensive, inefficient, and in some cases, deeply unethical. It's for this very reason they are called critical materials. A striking example is the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where over 60% of the world's cobalt is mined. Here, children work in dangerous conditions, and communities suffer from severe environmental harm. According to a recent report from The Independent, a young woman working in these mines was quoted saying, "Here, it is better not to be born." This highlights the urgent need for a new and better way to find these materials. My research is redefining how we approach this global challenge. I'm using machine learning to change how we explore these critical materials. Instead of relying on slow, invasive methods, machine learning lets us analyze huge amounts of data very quickly that will take traditional methods years to process. With the help of machine learning models, we are able to locate these materials more accurately. So, how does it work? Imagine teaching a machine to recognize patterns. By studying areas where we already know these materials to exist, the machine learns exactly what to look for in new places. The result is that the machine almost gives us a treasure map pointing us to areas with a high chance of finding more of these materials. The benefits of this technology are huge. It not only makes the discovery process more efficient, but it also helps companies and governments avoid regions where mining harms the communities, like the child labor issues in the Congo. In the end, this isn't just about technology. It's about people, communities, and our shared planet as a whole. Machine learning gives us a unique opportunity to find these essential resources in a way that's both sustainable and humane. That's the future I'm working towards.
Our Master's in Computer Science program began just a few years ago, and as you can imagine, the field of computer science has a wide array of applications, and thus one of our fastest growing graduate programs. With only 2 years of admission, the program is regularly seeing over 25 students in the master's program, and those students are then also pursuing the PhD in Engineering and Applied Science with a concentration in computer science. Up next, we have Callan Norby. Callan is a master's student in chemistry.
Our lab is out to solve two pressing issues facing the agricultural industry today. First is the inefficient use of water. Agricultural irrigation already accounts for 42% of all freshwater usage in the United States, and this number is only expected to grow as the need for food production increases. Another lesser-known issue is that sulfur, an essential nutrient for crop production, is becoming depleted from U.S. soils. Now, sulfur used to be directly deposited into soils through burning of fossil fuels, but nowadays it's removed from crude oil because excess environmental sulfur can cause acid rain and unintended health issues like asthma. So, in order to deliver a controlled amount of sulfur to soils and aid in moisture retention, our lab began developing a sulfur-rich hydrogel. Now, hydrogels are simply polymers that are capable of absorbing large amounts of water, like contact lenses or jello. But we had one small problem. Sulfur hates water. In fact, hydrogels with sulfur have only been successfully developed to the tune of about 3% sulfur incorporation into the polymer. So to solve this problem, we decided to utilize a novel type of green sulfur chemistry known as inverse vulcanization. This is a simple process that consists of heating elemental sulfur with other compounds to produce polymers that are rich in sulfur. This method generates almost no waste and utilizes large amounts of elemental sulfur, which is a waste product of petrochemical refinement generated at a rate of 700 million tons per year, as you can see by these sulfur dunes that in some cases can be twice as tall as any building on this campus. But prior to our lab, this technique had only been used to create polymers that do not interact with water. However, we thought that if we incorporate some molecules that are known to play nicely with both sulfur and water, that we could drastically increase the concentration of sulfur in our material relative to other sulfur hydrogels. And that's exactly what we did. By combining elemental sulfur with garlic oil and water-friendly compounds, and after a lot of synthetic optimization, we were able to pack 4 times as much sulfur into our material as the next best option, while still maintaining excellent interactions with water. We also conducted preliminary studies showing that our material can enhance the growth and lifespan of the soil bacteria Pseudomonas aeruginosa. Now, these bacteria are known to break down sulfur compounds in soils, and we have strong evidence suggesting they are doing just that to our polymer. So although we are still in the early phases of research, we've already accomplished our core goal of developing a material that is both rich in sulfur, but can still readily interact with water. As our research continues, we hope to make our product even more sustainable through the incorporation of more degradable and renewable compounds. And if our momentum persists, hopefully you will see our material help farmers use less water and increase crop production all across the United States.
So chemistry is also one of our oldest graduate programs, entering our list in 1966. So can you imagine the hundreds of chemists that are doing work for our community and the planet at this point? It's quite a lot. Up next, we have MD Mosharaf Houssan, who is also a master's student in computer science.
How would you feel if someone sneezed on you or told you to wipe off a surface that has been sneezed on? Not a good feeling, but for some people, even the mere thought of it gives them anxiety. These people live in a constant fear of germs. The condition is called germophobia. As can be seen from this Time magazine article, it was published recently. After COVID, more and more people are suffering from this condition. So, how to solve it? One of the effective ways of solving any kind of phobia-related disorders is called exposure therapy. So, a therapist might expose the patient to what they fear. Now, it's a bit tricky in terms of germophobia because we cannot really expose people to germs. So, what can we do? We have thought of a safe solution. We have developed a game in VR and mobile devices where when the player is playing the game, he's totally engaged, and bam, a NPC will sneeze on them. We will measure the stress response through smartwatch, and we'll be able to control the grossness of the grossness of the exposure, the sneeze, through the stress response. So the therapists will be able to be in control about how the sneeze is given to the patient. Our preliminary experiment showed that this simulation of sneeze in digital devices can induce stress response in patients, and over the time can help them not get anxiety from it. So we are hoping through digital interventions like this, we will be able to help people improve their mental health and live a better life. Thank you.
All right, we're getting some people settled in and out as our evening goes forward. And up next, we have John Opeifa, who is a master's student in history.
Let me tell you why this research matters to me on a deeply personal level. While growing up, I had stories about the Yorubas, their vibrant culture, their resilience, and their journey across the oceans. As a Yoruba, I've always felt the weight of those that came before me, those that didn't choose their migration, and those who came years later to sort for opportunity and belonging in a foreign land. In my thesis, titled Omo Kaaro Ojire, meaning children of those who greet good morning and wish each other well, I examined how the Yorubas preserved their culture, pursued economic empowerment, and established a sense of home in the US. In this journey, we can see Oyotunji African Village in South Carolina as a symbol of this resilience. It was founded around 1970 to preserve the Yoruba culture through traditions, ceremonies, and community education. In this research, you might want to ask me, how did they preserve their culture? The Yorubas in the US preserved their culture by celebrating the Yoruba acts, music, festivals like Oshun Festival, Egun Festival, and many others. Due to military rule and economic instabilities in West Africa, many skilled Yorubas came from West Africa to study in the US and to look for job opportunities. And again, we can see the Yorubas also maintain some transnational connections through music like Fuji, Afrobeats, Akbala, and with the aid of social media. While doing this research, I used a lot of sources like primary sources and secondary sources. I went through some archival records, did some interviews with some historians in the West and the East. This journey is very personal to me, and I cannot wait to share what I've learned with you all. Thank you.
Did you know that the graduate school supports students from over 120 master's and doctoral programs? At least 18 of those programs are represented here tonight. And the winners tonight will win prizes to help further their education and support more of their scholarly work. The People's Choice, which you'll vote on towards the at the end, will win $500. Third place will win $1,000. Second place will win $1,500, and our grand prize will win $2,000. So we make it worth their effort. Up next, we have Holly Karchner. Holly is a doctoral student in political science.
Education is the vehicle that allows us to transcend our circumstances. And according to Nelson Mandela, education is the most powerful weapon we have to change the world. And I agree. The motivation for my research was working with rural students as they transition from high school to college, and I've worked with some amazing students. But I'd like to share a quick story with you about two students. Both I met this fall. Claire attends a large urban local high school where she had the opportunity to choose from a wide variety of dual credit classes. Dual credit is the ability of a student while they're attending high school to get college credit. Claire graduated with an associate's degree this spring. However, 40 miles up the road north, Callan attends a small, populated high school. He did not have access to the same number of courses Claire did in her large school. He took the classes he was able, but he didn't have near the credits Claire was able to complete. Also, Claire had access to the state money that provides the funding for these credits. She utilized all $4,625. Callan was able to use less than 500 of his dollars. Claire and Callan applied for scholarships. Claire was incredibly successful because she looks like a very motivated student. She had an associate's degree. She had taken a lot of classes. Callan wasn't as successful because Callan didn't have access. Both of these students started this fall as chemistry majors. Claire started as a junior. Callan started as a freshman. And I suggest to you that this is the redlining of rural Idaho students. It is a discrimination based on the address of where you live and your access to resources. Political theorist John Rawls states in his Theory of Justice and Fairness that social institutions have a duty to provide equal access to services, but the public policy in Idaho is denying student services. To further my research, I surveyed all 28 rural designated schools in Southeast Idaho, and the principals and superintendents and counselors responded and said less than 22% of their students had the same access and parity as their rural peers. I suggest to you, if education is that weapon, is that realization of the American dream, get them an education.
Our doctoral program in political science started at ISU in 1990, so it's been around for several decades, and many of our masters in public administration students also go forward and continue on in the DA program. Going back to our winners for tonight, when we have our top four, we also invite them to our state 3-minute thesis competition where we compete against Boise State and University of Idaho. This year will be our 7th state tournament, and it'll be held in Idaho Falls this year in February. So we hope to have a lot of local support for our students this year. Up next, we have Arifa Islam Champa. Arifa is a doctoral student in engineering and applied science.
Did you know that this year's election campaign of President Donald Trump got hacked? Hackers stole sensitive documents and leaked them, stirring up a lot of chaos and raising concern about the security of US election system. And it all happened due to a simple, sneaky phishing email. And 91% of all hacking attempts starts with a phishing email. Now you might be wondering, what is this phishing email? It's basically a fake email that looks real, like it's from someone you know or a higher authority, but its goal is to trick you into giving away your private information, like your passwords or credit card numbers, so they can steal from you. However, using artificial intelligence or AI, our email systems can detect suspicious email and send them to the spam folder. So AI is like teaching computers to make quick human-like decisions. And research studies also suggest AI as a promising tool for catching phishing emails. All this sounds great, right? But hear this. The Federal Trade Commission reported that last year, hackers stole more than $10 billion. I repeat, more than $10 billion. So even with AI technology, we are still losing a huge amount of money to phishing. So it makes us wonder, is AI really good at catching phishing email? To find out, we did this research study to teach AI to catch phishing email using over 200,000 email examples. We used two types of AI models, machine learning and deep learning. Machine learning helps computer learn from examples to make decisions on their own, while deep learning makes this learning process even more powerful. From our study, we found that both machine learning and deep learning, simply put AI, did great at catching phishing emails that were similar to the ones it had learned from. But when it saw new, unfamiliar phishing emails, AI didn't do well at all. So our study reveals that the hype around AI's ability in detecting phishing email is a bit too optimistic. So yes, we have been under an illusion. So if an email shows up in your inbox, don't assume it's safe just because it's not in the spam folder. Remember, don't blindly trust AI systems. Be cautious, be critical, and always double check the emails you receive.
So on the heels of that warning for you, I do want to mention we have a secure cyber operations certificate at the graduate level, developed in part as a statewide cybersecurity education initiative between Idaho universities and the INL. These cybersecurity certificates give students the skills to land coding and operation careers in Idaho or nationwide, or perhaps at least teach you which emails you should and should not open. Up next, we have Dallin Stokes. Dallin is a master's student in microbiology.
Did you know that 250 million people get infected with malaria each year? That's equivalent to 3/4 of the US population. The cause of this dreadful disease? A real live vampire, a parasite that eats human red blood cells from the inside out. And unlike mythical vampires, these parasites can't be defeated by mere garlic. In fact, there are very few medications available to treat malaria, and the list gets shorter every year as the parasites gain immunity to drug after drug. Let's take a step back. Drugs work by gumming up special molecules in the cell called proteins. Proteins are the worker bees of the cell. Anything that requires doing is done by proteins. So if a drug can make a protein not work, the parasite dies. The trouble is that we understand very little about the inner workings of these vile bloodsuckers. A drug is only effective if it can actually find the protein it was designed to attack. Parasites have extremely complex life cycles, and they don't always build every protein during every stage of their life cycle. It's clearly not very helpful to design a drug to attack a protein that's not even going to be built by the parasite at the time the doctor uses the drug. So how do we find out when proteins are being built? That's where my research comes in. Proteins are built according to instructions written into the cell's DNA, a recipe, you might say. I take advantage of this. I'm using a technique called twin prime editing to modify the cell's DNA to make the cell light up anytime the cell builds that particular protein. This technique uses a special protein called PECAS9. This protein goes into the cell's DNA and cuts out the last part of a particular recipe. Then a second protein called polymerase comes in and fills in the gap with new instructions on how to build a molecule that glows in the dark. Now, whenever the parasite goes in to read the recipe and build that particular protein, the parasite glows. Once this technique has been perfected, it will be a powerful tool in the hands of malaria researchers and drug designers to help them develop new weapons against the vampires of malaria.
I will say we do not have a certificate related to vampires. We'll go with that. At this time, I would love to recognize if we have ISU alumni board members here. We often have alumni board members here in person, but I know several told me they were going to come on YouTube, which we are streaming live. So if we do have alumni board members, could you please stand? Jamie, thank you. I believe Stephanie is online as well, and I don't know some others, but thank you for supporting our graduate students. Up next, we have Modu Paola Bada, who is a master's student in communication.
How many of you are excited about AI helping you to solve big problems? Your assignments, translating from one language to another, or just casually recommending movies for you? On the other hand, how many of you are scared that artificial intelligence can actually take over the world? I know I am. Over the last 2 years, it has been difficult for me to go through a website without seeing an AI chatbot. And this is not a concern that is just expressed by just me, but then by a number of people. In order to understand this conversation, I will introduce to you the Habermas theory of the public sphere. This theory encourages public discourse, debate, and then so that we can form public opinion. In order to show the relationship between this theory and the artificial intelligence, I decided to use 2 videos from YouTube. And from these 2 videos, I extracted the comments using Communalytics, a tool that helps to extract data from social media. From there, I randomly selected 200 comments, then I did a mixed method research. From the mixed method research, you can see my emoji cloud, which shows that most people are laughing about it, but then my thematic analysis says otherwise. From my thematic analysis, where I showed the ideas, one particular concern remained constant, which is that people are scared. People have different concerns, and one of which is the ethical concern. With artificial intelligence giving people different information, is it going to uphold our moral standard? Is it going to uphold our ethical standard? There's also the regulatory concern. With artificial intelligence being so powerful nowadays, who is going to regulate artificial intelligence, and who are those that will be in charge of regulating those who are regulating it? We cannot leave so much power in the hand of few. The last one is the societal concerns. With artificial intelligence responding to messages, doing the job of customer care representative, in the future, what is going to happen to their jobs? With this, we can see that these people with the emoji that shows that people are not actually smiling from my analysis. They are smiling at the end of humanity. Aside that, we can see that when it comes to the conversation of artificial intelligence, people are not just passive, they are active, which shows the whole essence of the Habermas theory of the public sphere. We already know that this is an ongoing conversation, and it is people will still keep asking questions, but the main question is, what is the future of humanity?
So the Master's in Communication, which you just heard from our student here, can now be completed entirely online with synchronous online classes or in person. So if any of you were thinking about a career in communication leading to corporate communication, multi-platform journalism, visual media, or rhetoric and media affairs, the experts are in our communication department at ISU. Up next, Michaela Macaluso, who is a master's student in biology.
Remember a time when you received a bag or box of Legos. Inside, it has everything necessary to become the finished project, but a few things need to happen first. This is similar to a fertilized egg. Has all the required materials inside in order to become an organism. However, it needs to go through multiple developmental stages in order to get there. For the Lego set, there are instructions that tell you step by step exactly where and when to place each individual brick. For the fertilized egg, these instructions are morphogens or transcription factors. Morphogens send signals to genes and transcription factors in order to determine cell fate. transcription factors to regulate gene expression by turning on and off genes. When this happens, specific proteins are created, leading to cell type and cell populations, which create structures. Let's think Lego-wise. If we were to change the color or shape of one of these green bricks, it would change the overall appearance of this frog. The same thing occurs with a genetic mutation. It has the ability to change the overall appearance of an organism. I'm specifically looking at a gene known as MASP1, which causes 3MC syndrome, which is a craniofacial developmental disorder in humans that causes malformations like cleft lip, cleft palate, and learning disabilities. We are hypothesizing that what is occurring during this mutation could be similar to if you received more of one color of Legos and less of another. So let's think, for instance, if we were to receive more yellow bricks, then the stomach of this frog would be larger, and if we received less green bricks, the face and body would be smaller or disproportionate. Therefore, not only is it important that the nature of the bricks is correct, but also the amount is crucial. This similar thing could be happening in cells. If they are receiving more or less signal, it could be changing normal cell populations and structures. I'm using the African clawed frog organism to look at how changing MASP1 function overall changes cell populations and craniofacial structures. Uncovering these bricks in early development will help us to understand this human genetic disorder better, along with other craniofacial developmental disorders that affect 35% of babies annually.
Our next presenter is going to be on Zoom, so I do want to make sure that we have them up and ready in case we have audio issues again. So up next, we have Val Kimbrough, who is a master's student in computer science. And we'll get Val on the screen.
Are you ready for me?
Just a second, Val. Oh, there we are. We see you now, and your audio works. So
I will assume you are.
I'm turning it over to you, Val.
How much time do we have remaining to learn how to create safe and beneficial AI? AI that will not result in humans being viewed as competition for limited resources and therefore being eliminated. The gating item seems to be the arrival of artificial superintelligence, which is ASI greater than human level intelligence. Because once ASI arrives, we are no longer the apex intelligence on Earth, and our ability to modify the AI models further may be lost. So how long before ASI? University of Toronto professor Geoffrey Hinton, Nobel Prize winner, said in a 60 Minutes interview a year ago that he believed that AGI, artificial general intelligence, which is human level intelligence, would be developed within 10 to 20 years. Oxford University professor Nick Bostrom, who wrote the book Superintelligence, wrote that he believed that the leap from artificial general intelligence to artificial superintelligence would occur in a time frame ranging from between 10 to, that would occur in a time frame ranging from many years, possibly centuries, to perhaps as short as a few minutes. And once the explosion occurred, it would likely the intelligence explosion would occur and the intelligence would continue to grow exponentially thereafter. So it would appear that we have as short as 9 years left to figure out how to create safe and beneficial AI. And the unfortunate truth is we're not doing very well in that time frame. So what happens if you wake up some morning and a super intelligent version of Skynet has become a reality. Is all hope lost, or is there a plan B? I'm here to say there is a plan B, but the window of opportunity for it may be rather brief, and it's not guaranteed to be successful. What I'm referring to is an AI-enhanced cyber attack on artificial superintelligence. By using an AI-enhanced cyber attack, using the backdoor method, it is possible to deactivate a rogue artificial superintelligence, because superintelligent AI will have an appetite for the internet and will have flaws due to being developed by humans.
Thank you, Val. We have reached at least over our halfway point. We know this is a long night. If you would like to take a second to stand up, stretch, and sit back down, please do so. Don't be shy. You're allowed to stand up, stretch. We are over halfway done. All right, now sit back down. Simon says. All right, we do have our next student in waiting. So hopefully that helped stretch your brain muscles a little bit, get that blood flowing to take on the next set of topics. Up next, we have Julia Duran. Julia is a doctoral student in clinical psychology.
Autism spectrum disorder is a developmental condition diagnosed in 1 out of every 36 children. Its symptoms consist of differences in social skills, sensory perceptions, intense interests, and repetitive behaviors. Importantly, individuals with autism, and especially adults, face substantial challenges when it comes to accessing proper services, including mental health treatment. Therefore, the goal of this study was to identify the mental health symptoms of adults with autism. We compared 26 adults with autism to a non-autistic group on one of the most popular comprehensive self-report questionnaires. On the questionnaire, they answered 338 questions, covering everything from their personality traits to their mental health symptoms. The words that you see behind me in the darkest shade and in all capital letters are what was significantly different between the groups. What this finding means is that adults with autism are more likely to experience negative emotions, including feelings of guilt, worry, intrusive thoughts, irritability, and more. They're also more likely to have fears that restrict them in everyday activities and to feel as though they have no close relationships. More importantly, every single word that you see on the slide behind me is what the autism group rated on average as being clinically significant, meaning that they experience more difficulty in every single one of these areas than other individuals who are seeking treatment. What this research tells us is that adults with autism are at a greater risk of having mental health struggles, and having insufficient support for these struggles can cause them to feel helpless, isolated, and alone. Through this study, we were able to identify the specific areas and symptoms that treatment can focus on for adults with autism. However, more importantly, what this research shows is that adults with autism are in need of resources to help them cope with life and function better in their communities. As we move forward and take in this knowledge, let us advocate for change so that the journey for every autistic adult is met with support, dignity, and the promise of a brighter tomorrow. Thank you.
So Idaho's only APA-accredited clinical psychology program is here at Idaho State. And, fun fact, our very first 3-minute thesis winner was from clinical psychology. It was Jonathan Good for his research on stigma surrounding mental health issues and the use of treatment among veterans. I say that big dramatic pause because I thought I was ready to move forward, and now I am. Shajan Das is our next student. He is a master's student in computer science.
Hi, everyone. I want to begin today's presentation by asking you all a very simple question. How much carbon dioxide do you guys think will be emitted during the next 3 minutes? Any random guesses from the crowd? I will go. So during the next 3 minutes, according to BBC, 0.3 million tons of carbon dioxide will be emitted into the atmosphere. And not only this, during the next 3 minutes, the world will be consuming over 1 million kilowatt hours worth of electricity. But what if I tell you there is a way to make this energy cleaner and cheaper? What if I tell you there exists a technology that can help you save on your next electricity bill? Now, with all that being said, let's look at the challenge that we have in hand today. The demand for energy is growing with every passing day, but we cannot always be relying on fossil fuels, right? But why is that? Because they're a major contributor to number 1, climate change, and number 2, pollution. Renewable energy sources like the solar and the wind do offer a great solution as they're clean and they're in abundance as well. But there is a catch. The sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow. And that leaves grid managers with a lot of uncertainty. So we need to figure out a way, right, to tackle this uncertainty. Ladies and gentlemen, that is where my research comes into play, tackling the uncertainty. As someone who is passionate about both technology and sustainability, my research is at the intersection of both of these fields. By creating an AI-powered systems, I allow grid managers to take smarter decisions by analyzing data from number 1, weather patterns, number 2, historic energy use, and number 3, real-time grid demands. And that means lesser reliance on fossil fuels. Now, it's time to talk about the results. It has been seen that by using my model, grid managers can help us save around 15% on our next electricity bill. So what does that mean for everyday consumers like you, I, and everyone? That means more money into our pocket. I'm sounding like a politician now. And lesser carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. So the next time, whenever you are flipping a switch, imagine all the things that's happening behind the scenes. As Dr. Tracy mentioned right at the beginning, that this is the first time in fall that we are not having a snowfall outside when 3-minute thesis is happening. Climate change is real, everyone. Help me reverse climate change with the help of what? Artificial intelligence. Therefore, my research is to ensure that energy is clean. My research is to ensure that energy is affordable. My research is to ensure that energy is safe for everyone to use, but not for only you and I, but for the generations we'll be leaving behind.
I didn't know I was going to get quoted on the stage research. That's some like innovative thinking there. I'll have to think of some more like profound things that I can get quoted on. The remaining students, you can quote me, I guess, if you need to. I do want to point out that all of our students on stage are being mentored by faculty at Idaho State University, and they are incredibly important to help provide students the opportunities to participate and showcase their work in events like these. We've just heard from the 3rd student that Dr. Mostafa Felda has in this event. Many of our faculty have several students in this event, and we have over 25 faculty advisors supporting these students tonight. Will you join me in providing a round of thanks for those faculty mentors? I don't think our students would be here without them, so thank you. Up next, we have Vanessa Gallegos. Vanessa is a master's student in public health.
Mi bebé tiene hambre. ¿Me puedes ayudar con leche? My baby's hungry. Can you please help me with milk? No me he sentido bien. I have not been feeling well. ¿Hay alguien aquí que me pueda ayudar en español? Is there someone here that can help me in Spanish? Latinos are the largest growing population in the United States and in Idaho. Currently in the US, one in every 5 people are Latino. It's projected by the year 2060, 1 in every 4 people will be Latino. In Southeast Idaho, the population ranges anywhere from 4 to 34%. Why the high concentration of Latinos here in Southeast Idaho? Agricultural work. Southeast Idaho will always be an ag community. Therefore, Latinos will always be here putting in that hard work to support and provide for their families. Latinos also experience a number of healthcare disparities, including access to healthcare, lower rates of healthcare coverage, lower rates of preventative screening, higher rates of colorectal cancer. What can we do to address these systemic inequities and improve one's health? We can do so by addressing the barriers. The main one being for Latinos is that of language. A recent study done in the US reported that 1 in 3 Latinos report not speaking English very well or at all. Facebook. A whopping 71% of Latinos living in the US use Facebook as a means of communication to gather and share information. Services need to reflect the demographics. Salud Southeast Idaho is a Facebook page that I launched during Hispanic Heritage Month. It's a collaborative Facebook page that is dedicated to providing resources so Latinos can achieve optimal health and wellness. Resources include access to food, education, home improvements, and much more. Collaboration is key to the success of sustainability of any program, any initiative, regardless of the topic. Thus far, key collaborators include Southeast Idaho Public Health, Aid for Friends, Idaho Commission, Idaho Council of Governments, and including the Area on Aging, local schools, and churches. I'm always looking to collaborate. I'll be here afterwards. I have cards. Please do reach out. Hablo español. My work is dedicated to my great-grandmother, Catarina. This blouse, it reminds me of her. She was 4th generation migrant farm worker here in Southeast Idaho. During her time here, there were very few resources available in Spanish. Please find a source on Salud Southeast Idaho. Use that source, but then share it so someone else can have an opportunity at optimal health and wellness.
So the Masters in Public Health came to ISU in 1997. Since that time, the degree has expanded to serve multiple populations, including a collaborative pharmacy public health joint degree, as well as certificates in public health and rural health to enhance knowledge in specific areas, and an accelerated bachelor's to master's program, which allows students the opportunity to receive both degrees in only 5 years. Up next, we have MD Fazal Rabi, who is a doctoral student in engineering and applied science.
Let's go to Walmart. Not physically right now, but let's imagine you are there, standing in front of the candy aisle. You grab a chocolate bar, and what do you do next? You check the ingredients, right? Maybe you are avoiding too much sugar, or you are allergic to peanuts. We rely on that ingredients list to make safe choices. But what about the software that we use every day, like Microsoft Word for writing documents, WhatsApp for messaging, or Instagram for sharing photos? Do we know what's inside these apps? Actually, we don't. In software, these ingredients are called Software Bill of Materials, or in short, SBOM. An SBOM lists every component in a software, just like
the ingredients list on that chocolate bar. Now, if there is a vulnerable component in our software, it can put our information and devices at risk. It could even lead to losing money or being targeted by ransomware. But here is the problem. Software companies rarely provide this SBOM. So what can we do? There are tools out there that claim they can create this SBOM automatically. They say they can detect all components, versions, and dependencies within a software. But are they accurate? In my study, I tested 7 most popular SBOM tools on 50 diverse software projects. My goal was to find out if these SBOM tools really capture all software components and their relationships. The results were surprising, but not in a good way. These tools detected at most only 60% of the components and often flagged components that were not even there. While these tools are trying to do something valuable, they are not fully reliable yet. And my research highlights these shortcomings. For tool developers, this is a call to improve SBOM accuracy. And for users, it's a reminder to be cautious and not trust these tools blindly. With improvements, these tools could make our digital world a safer place. Until then, it's a work in progress and one that's crucial for software security, our security.
So in fall 2019, we began a new activity in the graduate school to help students find connections with each other, with faculty, and the community outside the classroom. Our late nights are low-pressure social events where the graduate school provides the food, thinking we lure students in with free food, because what graduate student doesn't want free food? We say late nights because the event is from 7 to 9, once a month, and our next event is December 6th, 2 Fridays from now, 3 Fridays from now, couple Fridays from now. I didn't do the math, in the ISU Games Center. So we do welcome all of you to join our late nights to socialize and hang out and talk with our students on a low-key environment and play some pool and bowl on us. Up next, we have Yousuf Orr. Yousuf is a master's student in history.
In my research, I discovered that Helen Keller was a monster. Well, that's kind of a bold statement without context, so here's some context. In the early 1900s, there was a movement known as the eugenics movement. Now, the thinking behind this is we can breed a better species of human. And we do this by making sure that certain people just don't have children. We're talking, of course, about black folks, about immigrants from certain places, about poor people. We're talking about religious minorities, such as the Jews, or the disabled and handicapped. Now, this would be accomplished through sterilizations, through forced abortions, or through outright extermination. Now, you may not have heard of eugenics before, but you've probably heard of some of the more famous advocates. People like President Woodrow Wilson, President Herbert Hoover, Margaret Sanger, John Maynard Keynes, or Adolf Hitler. Hitler, of course, has the distinction of being the person who took eugenics to its logical extreme. Now, while this is going on, in the United States, there is a person who has the ability to speak out against eugenics in a way no one else possibly could. I'm, of course, talking about Helen Keller. You're probably familiar with the story of how she learned to communicate. But what is less well known is the story after that. As an adult, she is a celebrity. When she speaks, and I do mean speaks, she taught herself to speak. When she speaks, people listen. And why wouldn't they? She's a genius. She learned to read Shakespeare as a very small child and could recite it. When she spoke, the press wrote down what she had to say. She met with presidents, she met with royalty, she met with politicians. She had a huge platform. She was one of the biggest stars of the time. And you would think, based on her condition, that she might be willing to speak out against the eugenics movement, but no. Instead, she went in the other direction. Eventually, the eugenics movement leads us to the Holocaust. Instead of putting up speed bumps, Helen Keller paved the road for it, made it more acceptable to like eugenics, to be into eugenics. Please join me in stamping this out, because even today, eugenics is still present in our world. Thank you very much.
So this year, on our 70th birthday, I do ask you all to consider donating to our Dean's Excellence Fund to contribute to help fund events like this, our 3-minute thesis competition, and the students like the ones you are watching today. You will find a QR code in your program, as well as a card donation box downstairs at our reception after the presentations. Last year, the donations funded for the 3-minute thesis through the Dean's Excellence Fund funded all 3 of our primary winners. Up next, we have Bailey Breezy, who is a doctoral student in microbiology.
I would like to talk to you about malaria. Malaria is a serious disease caused by tiny parasites that infect the human blood. And malaria is also a global health issue that affects millions of people each year and results in over 500,000 deaths. And unfortunately, the majority of those deaths are young children under the age of 5. Now, you may be wondering, are there any treatments for malaria? There are, but they come with their own challenges. There have been a few vaccines rolled out, but these vaccines are not as widely available yet or as effective as we would like them to be. There are also medications for malaria, but the parasite can quickly adapt resistance to these medications and develop resistance to these drugs, making these treatments less effective over time. This is a major problem that undermines malaria control efforts, and there is a need for new drugs that target parts of the parasite that don't change easily, so medications can remain effective for longer. One promising area in the malaria parasite's biology that might hold new targets for drugs are proteins found in their mitochondrion. Often called the powerhouse of the cell, the mitochondrion is responsible for generating energy for the parasites. If the mitochondrion stops functioning, the parasite dies. So we hope to find new drug targets the parasite can't easily evolve resistance to. The problem is we know only a few of the many proteins that are found in the mitochondrion. So my goal is to identify new key proteins involved in the functioning of the mitochondrion. But how can I identify a group of unknown, essentially invisible proteins? I can have the proteins play a simple game of tag. I've currently been working on this by modifying a specific mitochondrial protein named RNA polymerase with a biotin ligase tag attached to it, as shown on my slide. Any protein within proximity of the biotin ligase tag on the RNA polymerase will get tagged with biotin, as shown in my slide. Some of the proteins that could be tagged include the RNA polymerase itself, ribosomes, or unknown transcription factors. These tagged proteins could then be fished out, identified, and studied. And armed with a greater understanding of these proteins, my research could provide scientists a way to be able to identify new, long-lasting drugs to fight the devastating disease of malaria. Thank you.
Up next, we have Amir Hafazi, who is a master's student in mechanical engineering.
All right, so this is gonna be exciting. We all have seen boats, right? And I would assume that everybody in this room have seen drones, you know, like quadcopters. What if we could have the combination of both? What if we could have a drone that can also turn into a boat? How about a drone boat? Let me introduce to you, for the first time, the Droat. Droat is a novel idea of mine that I have been working on for the past couple of months. Here you can see the conceptual design of it. So basically, it is a quadcopter which has 2 pontoons underneath it. That way, it can land on water and stay floated on water. Also, it can rotate its propellers 90 degrees, and that way, it will be able to maneuver on water surface. Now, I don't want to bore you with the complexities of the design. Let's get straight to the applications. Application number 1, search and rescue after tsunamis. When tsunamis happen, the water is everywhere and the ruins of buildings are everywhere. And people are gonna be stuck in between the water surface and the ruins of buildings. It will be very tough for a quadcopter to access those people. But that's when the Droat comes into play. It can simply land on water and rotate its propellers and glide on water surface and maneuver its way into those hard access places. Also, one of the other disadvantages of a quadcopter is that they have low battery life. But this one can simply land on water and get charged by the solar panels on top of it. But the normal quadcopter doesn't have that ability because it cannot stay on water. Application number 2, which is the fun one. A few months ago, I went to New York City and I went on a boat tour on Hudson River. It was an amazing experience. You could see the whole view of New York City with all those beautiful skyscrapers. Now, if this project is seriously funded, one day that boat is gonna lift up in the air and you'll be able to fly in the middle of those skyscrapers. I'm serious. This project is doable because this design is scalable. Now, I don't want you to seriously fund this project at this point, but I won't reject it. All I want from you is to support this project at this stage so I can make the small scale, fully functional Droat. Also, I have to say, patent pending.
You know, we work with these students, preparing them for today's event so they can be confident and confident. So they come to our open house a week before to share with us their speech, their slide, whatever it might be, and we work with them to make sure it's fitting the rules and the model of the 3-minute thesis. And when Amir came in and kept talking about a Droat, I kept thinking he was talking about something else. And I was like, what are you talking about? There's no such thing. And then he showed us a slide, and then I was like, oh, now I get it. So, yes. I do that a lot with a lot of things they're talking about because they're completely out of my scope, which is why we love this event, because we learn so many new topics and new things. Up next, we have Fatima Falahata Marvost, who is a master's student in biology.
Imagine a massive building that's in a fire, and hundreds of people are trapped inside of the building. That's dangerous, I know, and it's not just about the firefighters that are needed. Rescue should empty the building, ambulances should take the injured people to the hospital, and medics should provide immediate care. And each team has its role, and they have to work perfectly in sync. So in this situation, we need coordinators to tell each responder what to do and where to go. So imagine these signals that each team give from the responders is messed up. What's going to happen? What can be the result? The result will be terrible, since we are going to lose the people's life because of the lack of coordination. So I want to say that we have the same process in embryos' bodies. There is a group of cells that's called neurocrest cells, and they have to move and migrate to their destination, which is face and skull, and form those structure. And so they have to go to that destination in the right time and form the structure accurately. So they need coordinators. These coordinators in our body called transcription factors that are genes, and one of them that I'm studying is HIC1. So they guide cells and tell them what they are going to do and give them function. So imagine neurocrest cells that I mentioned miss their signal, and something happened in that process, for example, changing in the transcription factors. So what's going to be the result? The result, again, would be terrible. And it can lead to a serious issue like cleft palate and cleft lip that you can see in the slide. So I'm studying this process and these genes, and one of them, as I mentioned, is HIC1. So, and also HIC1 is involved in cancer, in colon cancer. And they're using African cloud frogs, since this process in this species of frog is very similar to the human embryos. So the result of my research would be awesome, since I'm going to provide some treatment for cancer and also figure out how these craniofacial defects occur. Thank you all for being here and your attention.
So we know many students are in the audience and, again, presenting tonight and online, and some students are thinking, I need more time. 3 minutes is not a lot. Have any of you tried to talk about a topic for 3 minutes and just stop before your friend says, I don't want to hear anymore? 3 minutes. But we have a better opportunity for more time, and that is our research symposium. In the spring, we have our annual research symposium. It originally, for us at the graduate school, began 11 years ago as the Graduate Research Symposium. And we have since collaborated with undergraduate research and KDHS to have a combined university-wide research symposium. It'll be held on March 19th, 2025. So save the date now and watch for those notifications in January to submit abstracts for a 10-minute oral presentation, a poster session, or creative works. 10 minutes seems a lot longer than 3 when you're on the wire. Up next, we have another Zoom participant. We have Kelly Rich, who is a doctoral student in nursing practice. And Kelly, when you're ready, go ahead.
What's been a child or teenager, maybe even your own, endlessly scrolling through social media, feeling more isolated, anxious, and filled with self-doubt as they compare themselves to what they see? This isn't just one story. It's a growing reality for many families around the world. Kids and teens are constantly bombarded with perfect-looking pictures and messages that set impossible standards. They feel pressured to live up to these standards, but know they never can. Over time, this constant comparison makes them feel like they're not good enough, hurting their mental health and self-esteem. My name is Kelly, and my research focuses on how social media affects the developing brain of kids and teens, making them more vulnerable to these pressures. I'm working to find ways to better equip parents and caregivers with the knowledge and tools needed to protect kids' mental health and prevent crises before they arise. Childhood and the teen years are crucial for brain development. During this period, the brain goes through synaptic pruning, which means it gets rid of connections it doesn't use to work more efficiently. Basically, the brain rewires itself based on what it uses most. Unfortunately, social media can shape this process, making young people overly focused on looks, followers, and likes. A 10-year study found that 13-year-olds who spend 2 to 3 hours a day on social media are more likely to have suicidal thoughts as adults. The primary research I'm conducting aims to measure and close the knowledge gap and find ways to reduce risks and increase parent awareness. Since kids' brains are still developing, they are especially sensitive to these messages, which can lead to negative self-thoughts. Studies show that delaying social media until at least age 16 allows for healthier brain and emotional development. This gives teens more time for their brains to mature before being introduced to platforms and influences that they're just too young to handle. It's not just screen time, but what kids miss in real life that matters. Harvard researchers found that the strongest predictor of happiness and well-being is the quality of a person's relationships. When kids spend more time on social media, they lose valuable time for building connections with family and friends. It's important for parents and caregivers to talk openly, set clear rules, and help kids and teens find activities that promote positive mental health. My goal is to empower families with tools and knowledge to protect kids' mental health and create environments where they can thrive. Spend time together, build relationships. Together, we can support the next generation in developing healthy habits with technology for overall well-being. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. I would love to take a moment to thank our event leads within the graduate school who have taken on this 3-minute thesis event and made it such a great premier event for our students to participate in. So Angie Calloway and Amanda Bennett, thank you for leading our department in such an outstanding event tonight. Be sure to thank them when you see them downstairs. Up next, we have Lauren Elmore. Lauren is a doctoral student in clinical psychology.
If not most of you, have experienced academic burnout at some point in your lives. As I look out at the audience, I see a lot of college graduates, grad students, and professors out there. And if you haven't experienced academic burnout, then please come talk to me afterwards because I need some tips. And so we come to grad school and university with some sort of passion in mind. Whether it's biology, chemistry, engineering, we love to learn and we have that passion. But then the assignments, they start to build up and then the work builds up and suddenly we can't handle stress the way that we used to. And that love for that learning or that passion that we had before, it starts to dwindle. And that's hard for us because learning and curiosity, that's a part of some of our identities. And so losing that, even for a semester, is like losing a piece of ourselves. I'm a clinical psychology student, and even though we're taught coping skills and how to weather life stressors, we're not immune to academic burnout either. In fact, in a study that we conducted online in a cross-sectional nature, we found that over half of our sample of counseling and clinical psychology training students experienced a significant amount of academic burnout. A quarter of these experienced a severe amount of academic burnout. But what factors contributed to this? We found that avoidant-focused coping, where you avoid the stressor at hand, along with emotion-focused coping, where you only focus on the emotion that you feel during the stressor, predicted greater levels of academic burnout. However, problem-focused coping, where you focus on fixing the stressor at hand and also program support related to decreases in academic burnout. Like I mentioned before, we're not all clinical psychology students. We come from multiple different backgrounds, and these numbers have actually been reflected in multiple different grad student and other sorts of professional backgrounds. Academic burnout isn't just academic burnout. It digs a little deeper than that. Academic burnout has been associated with dropout intentions, depression, suicidal ideation, and suicidal behaviors. So it's not just being stressed about school or not being stressed about school. It digs deeper. So giving individuals or students proper coping mechanisms, along with ensuring that they feel supported within their program, are vital. These small changes can change the trajectory of someone's life, and they're small changes that we can make as long as we're willing to. Thank you.
So some exciting news happened with clinical psychology this summer. The new psychiatric clinic in Pocatello opened in July. And the Psychology Graduate Student Association also has been giving back to the community by collecting winter gear to donate to help students in need within the Pocatello-Chubbuck School District 25. Up next, we have Eliana Claps, who is a doctoral student in clinical psychology as well.
Suicide is the #2 leading cause of death in college students in the U.S., with 24,000 students attempting suicide each year and 1,100 of those students dying by suicide. To put that into perspective, that's the equivalent of 3 students per day losing their life due to an action that could have been prevented with better vigilance and support. Now, while these deaths are preventable, schools struggle to effectively address suicide and suicidal ideation. This challenge is even evident in clinical psychology graduate programs that are training students to combat these same mental health struggles in their clients. If we want to truly address this problem, we need to better understand the factors that lead to suicidality in this population. The most well-researched theory to explain why someone may choose to take their own life is the interpersonal theory of suicide. And in it, it suggests that feelings of hopelessness, feelings that one is a burden to others, and the feeling that one does not belong are key indicators of suicidality. Now, while this has been well researched, less is known about how these factors impact psychology graduate students. So for our study, we wanted to better understand, 1, suicidal ideation in psychology graduate students, 2, what their perceptions of program support protected against this, and 3, whether these factors of the interpersonal theory of suicide mediated this relationship. So to do this, we sent out a survey to all the APA-accredited doctoral psychology programs in the US, and we had a sample of 223 clinical and counseling trainees who were currently in graduate school. We found that almost half of them endorsed at least some level of suicidal ideation, and that's roughly 8 times higher than what we'd expect in a general population of similarly aged peers, indicating that this type of distress may be more impactful for these types of students. Of those who endorse suicidal ideation, the less support they felt from their program, the more hopeless they felt, and the more of a burden that they felt they were. And both of those factors significantly predicted increased thoughts of suicide. So overall, the study indicates that if we want to protect students against suicidal ideation, program support matters. But to the extent that we can generate hope and reduce feelings of burden, the more effective this protection may be. Hopefully, graduate and undergraduate programs can use this study as a guide as they work to demonstrate better support for their students. Thank you.
So our next student is an MBA student, and the MBA program is our second highest non-health science enrolled program in the graduate school, with our top program enrolling students from all over the world for the online Master of Arts in Spanish program. The MBA and the MA in Spanish are offered online and enroll students year-round. So if you're interested in either one of those areas, we have the program built for you. So up next, we have Alicia Pino, who, as I said, is a master's student in business administration.
Hey, do you have a second? Yeah, how do you think that meeting went yesterday? Yeah, I thought it was insane too. No, I'm not sure what your role is, but you know what? I'll find out for you. We're all familiar with these casual conversations at work, the so-called water cooler talk. Surprisingly, it's more than just chit-chat. It was a crucial form of feedback for supervisors to gauge how their employees were feeling. But in the transition to remote and hybrid work, these casual conversations have nearly disappeared. You see, leaders are facing a feedback deficit. They typically get feedback in two ways: monitoring, things like casual conversations, body language, interactions, and direct inquiry, things like 360 reviews or formal one-on-ones. Remote work has formalized what was once natural and casual, and it's created a big void in how we connect and communicate. So why does it matter? Well, high employee turnover is usually driven by a dissatisfaction from one's immediate supervisor. We can all remember a bad boss, yeah. And it costs organizations millions of dollars, including ones just like this. But research also indicates that supervisors who ask for feedback are much more effective. They create environments where employees feel seen, heard, and are going to stay. So in order to stay effective in remote work, leaders have to adapt. And that's where our research comes in. We hope to help these leaders find meaningful connections in virtual environments and to help monitor engagement. My peer and I, in over 35 interviews, have found that in the absence of this chit-chat, supervisors have become highly attuned to every single detail that's happening on the screen. When you only have this much information to go on of every single one of your employees, this part of you becomes absolutely critical. Absolutely critical. Every flicker of eye movement or change in posture or moment of quiet speaks volumes. These subtle cues have become essential signals for an employee well-being, often prompting a follow-up one-on-one to say, hey, what's up? It's this focused screen monitoring that has now become the pulse for employee morale. So imagine you work in a workplace where your supervisor reaches out, not just to check a box, but to check in, to engage, to ask you how you're doing. A world where feedback isn't a formality, but it is a pathway to better, more engaged workplaces, even through a screen.
So as you can see, this event is a very nerve-wracking event for our students. And I hope that you will indulge me because we are going to go back in time and let one presenter present his research in the way that he is most comfortable on the podium with this mic, AV folks, so that way you can get to hear the research that he was unable to present earlier this evening. So we're going to welcome Miles Rhoads back to the podium. He is a master's student in anthropology.
I am Southern Pomo. I am Two-Spirit. I know the weight of a story untold. In Idaho, Native people disappear 2 times the national average, but that's just the beginning of the story. Those are the names we know. Imagine those we don't. Every year, nearly 600,000 people go missing in the United States. Most get headlines, but for many Native people, there's no media frenzy. There's no breaking news. Their stories are lost, forgotten by a system that has neglected them for too long. As a Native researcher, I carry their stories with me. They are my own. I refuse to let them be forgotten. My research is creating something new, a first-of-its-kind database focused on the I-15 corridor in Idaho, where Native communities are disproportionately impacted. This data goes beyond recording names. It captures critical cultural details traditional systems miss, like gender diversity, tribal affiliation, and practices such as travel routes and gathering places. Using predictive analysis, law enforcement can focus on factors that increase vulnerability. For example, if certain routes or areas have higher disappearance rates, they're flagged as high risk. This isn't a static list. It's a dynamic tool that evolves as new cases come in, making it more insightful over time. With experience in search and rescue alongside law enforcement, I know firsthand that this database will change how we search. Native communities will finally see their stories acknowledged. This isn't just a Native issue. It's a humanitarian issue. Each life, each story cries out to us to notice, to act. The lives of our missing Native people is everyone's responsibility. This research is a way forward, a call to every person who has ever waited by the phone or door. We haven't forgotten, and we won't.
Thank you for letting us go a little sidebar as we are. I am going to excuse at this point our students because we're getting a big group picture. So if they will follow our folks out and give them a big hand as they are heading out. And as they do so, we're going to talk about people's choice. Okay, awesome. So if you recall, don't head out too fast. If you recall, the People's Choice QR code and link has been updated. So use the link that is online if you're an online participant viewer. If you have the program in hand, there should be a new insert, or you can scan the code that's on this slide. This one is the new accurate one. Pick your favorite. You are only allowed to vote one time, so choose wisely. This link will be open for approximately 8 to 9 more minutes. We try to be exact on our 3-minute thesis time frame. While they are getting their pictures made, I would love for you all to recognize and thank our judges. We have fabulous judges on our balcony. You can't see them, but you can kind of see them now. Lights are coming up. So Dr. Justin Dolan Stover is the department chair for history, but he gets the honor of being a judge this year because he's also the most recent Distinguished Researcher Award winner at ISU. So thank you, Dr. Stover. Up next, I have Dr. Michelle Brumley. Dr. Brumley is our Associate Vice President for Research, and I think a returning judge for us as well over the years. She's just like, did I? Maybe. I think you did. Thank you, Dr. Brumley. Our next judge is Dr. Vidya Ganji, an Associate Professor in the College of Business. Thank you for being here. Ooh. And then last but not least, we have Dr. Martin Blair, who is our Vice President for Research and Economic Development and a returning judge for us as well. Thank you. So the next couple of minutes, we're going to give them a few minutes to get things situated. Our next part of our agenda, we have a reception downstairs. There is plenty of food. There are libations, non-alcohol and alcohol. Take your pick. We also have a hot chocolate bar. And please don't forget that we do have a Dean's Excellence Fund if you would like to donate towards our students and supporting the work that they're doing. You'll see that downstairs as well. So thank you all for being here. We greatly appreciate your support of our graduate students in our 3-minute thesis. We'll see you in a few minutes downstairs.